In the early 1600s, nestled between the Oyo Empire and the Atlantic coast, a small kingdom began to rise, Dahomey. Founded by the Fon people, this kingdom would soon become one of the most powerful in West Africa. But what truly set Dahomey apart was not just its strategic conquests or booming trade. It was a group of warriors that would defy the norms of their time, the Agojie, also known as the Dahomey Amazons. The Kingdom of Dahomey was founded around 1600 by King Agojie. Initially a small state, Dahomey quickly expanded under the leadership of Agojie and his successors, King Akaba and King Agojie. These early kings were known for their military prowess, strategic alliances, and effective governance, which allowed Dahomey to dominate its neighbors and control key trade routes. Under King Agojie, who reigned from 1718 to 1740, Dahomey expanded aggressively. Agojie's conquests of Alata and Wida were crucial, as they gave Dahomey control over the lucrative slave trade routes leading to the Atlantic coast. But to maintain and protect these newly acquired territories, Agojie needed an elite fighting force, one that would come to be known as the Agojie. The origins of the Agojie are shrouded in both fact and legend. Some historians suggest that the Agojie evolved from a group of women hunters called the Gabedo, who initially served as royal bodyguards under King Agojie. Others believe they began as a select group of palace guards, chosen from among the king's wives and concubines, tasked with protecting the royal compound. Recognizing their discipline and potential, King Agojie expanded the role of these women, transforming them from palace guards into a formidable military unit. By the time of Agojie's reign, the Agojie were no longer just protectors of the king. They were the vanguard of Dahomey's army, leading raids and playing a crucial role in the kingdom's expansion. The rise of the Agojie was not just a military strategy. It was also a reflection of the unique role of women in Dahomeyan society. Dahomey was a matrilineal culture, where women held significant power in both the spiritual and political spheres. The kingdom's religious practices, particularly the worship of voodoo deities, often saw women as priestesses and spiritual leaders. The Agojie were an extension of this tradition, embodying the strength and spiritual authority of Dahomeyan women. In a society where women could be both warriors and spiritual guides, the Agojie were seen as protectors not just of the king, but of the kingdom's very soul. Their rise to prominence was a testament to the power and influence of women in Dahomey, a power that would only grow stronger as the kingdom faced new challenges and enemies. As Dahomey continued to expand, so too did the responsibilities of the Agojie. Their rigorous training and unique culture would soon make them one of the most feared military forces in West Africa. But what did it take to become an Amazon of Dahomey? To become an Agojie was to undergo a transformation, one that required not just physical strength, but also mental and spiritual resilience. These women were trained to be more than soldiers. They were molded into warriors who could endure pain, conquer fear, and strike terror into the hearts of their enemies. The path to becoming an Agojie often began at a young age. Girls were chosen from various backgrounds. Some were captives of war, others were offered as tributes by their families, while a few volunteered, drawn by the promise of honor and status that came with being an Amazon. Once selected, these girls were taken from their families and brought to the royal compound, where they would begin their transformation. For many, this was the last time they would see their families. The Agojie lived apart from the rest of Dahomeyan society, in a special compound near the king's palace. Here, they would train, eat, sleep, and prepare for war, cut off from the outside world, their lives now dedicated to the service of the king and the protection of Dahomey. Training to become an Agojie was not for the faint of heart. The women underwent a grueling regimen designed to forge them into the kingdom's most formidable warriors. Physical training was relentless, focusing on building endurance, strength, and agility. They practiced with a variety of weapons, from spears and short swords to bows and, later, firearms introduced through trade with Europeans. But physical strength alone was not enough. The Agojie were also trained in psychological warfare, learning how to instill fear in their enemies through their appearance, war cries, and brutal tactics. They participated in mock battles, where real weapons were used, and endurance tests that pushed them to their limits, such as running barefoot over thorns or climbing walls of sharpened spikes. These exercises were not just about physical conditioning. They were designed to harden the women's resolve, to teach them that pain was temporary, and that their mission, protecting Dahomey, was paramount. The Agojie were taught to suppress fear, to embrace pain, and to view death in battle as the highest honor. The Agojie lived by a strict code of discipline and honor. They were separated from the rest of society, living communally within the royal compound. Their daily lives were regimented, with a focus on maintaining physical fitness, honing combat skills, and participating in spiritual rituals that connected them to their ancestors and the gods. Spirituality was deeply ingrained in the life of an Amazon. The Agojie were not just warriors. They were believed to be possessed by the spirits of warrior ancestors, which gave them strength and protection in battle. These rituals were crucial in reinforcing their identity as sacred protectors of Dahomey. Each Amazon was connected to the divine, and this connection was believed to make them invincible on the battlefield. Life in the compound was not solely about training for war. The Agojie formed a close-knit community, bound by their shared purpose and experiences. They crafted their own weapons, took part in communal activities, and supported one another as sisters in arms. This sense of camaraderie was vital to their effectiveness in battle. Each woman knew she could rely on the others, not just as fellow soldiers, but as family. Within the Agojie, a strict hierarchy existed. Leadership was earned through experience, bravery in battle, and unwavering loyalty to the king. Senior Amazons, often veterans of many campaigns, were responsible for training new recruits and leading them into battle. These leaders commanded immense respect, not just for their skills, but for their wisdom and understanding of the spiritual and cultural responsibilities that came with being an Amazon. The leadership within the Agojie was marked by a combination of strength and mentorship. Senior Amazons were seen as both fierce warriors and maternal figures, guiding the younger recruits with a balance of discipline and care. This hierarchical structure ensured that the values, traditions, and fighting spirit of the Agojie were passed down through generations, maintaining their status as an elite force. Forged in the fires of rigorous training and bound by a unique culture of discipline and spirituality, the Agojie were more than ready to face any challenge that came their way. As Dahomey's borders expanded, so too did the need for these warriors to defend their homeland and its interests. The Agojie were not just a symbol of Dahomey's power, they were its sharpest weapon. Over the centuries, these women fought in some of the most significant battles in West African history. Their military strategies, honed through years of experience and spiritual dedication, were key to Dahomey's survival and expansion. One of the Agojie's most effective strategies was the night raid, a tactic that took full advantage of their stealth and intimate knowledge of the terrain. Under the cover of darkness, the Agojie would silently approach enemy camps, launching sudden and devastating attacks that left their foes in disarray. These raids were meticulously planned, often involving feigned retreats to lure enemies into ambushes. The Agojie were masters of battlefield tactics, employing formations that allowed them to outmaneuver and encircle their enemies. They often used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly before retreating to draw their opponents into traps. Their knowledge of the local environment, combined with their physical endurance, made them a formidable force in guerrilla warfare. Armed with an array of weapons, the Agojie were adept at both close combat and ranged attacks. Their weapon of choice was the machete, a short, broad blade ideal for the dense forests of West Africa. In addition to this, they employed poison-tipped arrows, which were particularly effective in both hunting and combat. The Agojie also adapted to the use of firearms, integrating muskets and rifles into their arsenal as European weapons became available through trade. Despite the introduction of firearms, the Agojie maintained a preference for traditional weapons, valuing the control and reliability of the machete and spear. However, their adaptability was evident as they seamlessly incorporated muskets into their tactics, using them effectively in both ambushes and frontal assaults. The Agojie's proficiency with these weapons made them a force to be reckoned with, even against better armed European foes. Among the many battles fought by the Agojie, the assaults on Abeokuta in 1851 and 1864 stand out as some of the most challenging. Abeokuta was a well-fortified stronghold of the Egba people, and its control was crucial for dominating the trade routes of the region. The Agojie led the charge against the city's defenses, but despite their bravery and tactical prowess, they were unable to breach the fortifications. The battles of Abeokuta marked a rare setback for the Agojie, highlighting the limitations of even the most skilled warriors against superior defensive positions. In the late 19th century, the Agojie faced an even greater challenge: the French colonial forces. The Franco-Dahomean Wars of 1890 to 1894 were a brutal conflict that tested the Agojie's skills and resolve to the limit. Despite initial successes, the Agojie found themselves outgunned and outmatched by the French, who employed advanced military technology, including machine guns and artillery. The Battle of Dahomey in 1892 was particularly fierce, with the Agojie fighting valiantly but ultimately being overwhelmed by the French firepower. These battles, though marked by the Agojie's fierce resistance, ultimately signaled the beginning of the end for Dahomey's independence. The French, determined to expand their colonial empire, were relentless in their campaign, and the Agojie, despite their valor, could not withstand the sheer might of the French military. However, their bravery and tactical ingenuity in these battles have become legendary, symbolizing the indomitable spirit of Dahomey. As the conflict with the French intensified, the Agojie and the Kingdom of Dahomey faced an uncertain future. The battles they fought, though heroic, were not enough to stop the tide of colonial expansion. By the late 19th century, the Kingdom of Dahomey was at a critical juncture. The relentless advance of European colonial powers, particularly the French, posed an existential threat to its sovereignty. Despite their formidable skills and unyielding courage, the Agojie were now facing an adversary with superior technology and resources. The decline of the Agojie and the eventual fall of Dahomey marked the end of an era in African history, but their legacy would live on. In 1890, the French initiated their campaign to conquer Dahomey. King Bihanzin, the last independent ruler of the kingdom, recognized the threat and mobilized his forces, including the Agojie, for what would be a desperate struggle to maintain Dahomey's independence. The Agojie, as always, were at the forefront of the resistance, engaging in guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and direct assaults on French positions. Despite their bravery and strategic ingenuity, the Agojie were facing an enemy that was unlike any they had encountered before. The French employed advanced military technology, including machine guns and artillery, which decimated the ranks of the Agojie. The Battle of Dahomey in 1892 was a particularly devastating encounter, where the Agojie fought valiantly but were ultimately forced to retreat in the face of superior firepower. King Bihanzin, though determined to resist, was facing insurmountable odds. The relentless French advance, combined with their superior weaponry, made the situation increasingly dire for Dahomey. The Agojie, though still fiercely loyal and ready to fight, were now a shadow of their former strength, their numbers dwindling with each encounter. In 1894, the French finally reached Dahomey, the heart of Dahomey and the last stronghold of its independence. The Agojie, along with the remaining Dahomeyan forces, mounted a desperate defense of the capital. The battle for Dahomey was fierce, with the Agojie fighting to the last, but the outcome was inevitable. The city fell, marking the end of Dahomey as an independent kingdom. The fall of Dahomey was a tragic end to centuries of Dahomeyan independence and the heroic legacy of the Agojie. The French, now in control of the kingdom, dismantled its institutions, including the Agojie. Many of the surviving Amazons were either killed, enslaved, or forced into exile. The once proud warriors who had defended Dahomey with such ferocity were now scattered, their ranks broken. King Bihanzin, refusing to surrender, ordered the burning of the royal palace before fleeing into the wilderness. His defiance, though ultimately futile, was a final act of resistance against the French conquest. The Agojie, having fought valiantly to the end, had fulfilled their duty to the king and their homeland, even as Dahomey was absorbed into the French colonial empire. The fall of Dahomey marked the end of an era, not just for the kingdom but for the Agojie as well. For centuries, these women had stood as the fierce protectors of their homeland, defying the conventions of their time and carving out a unique place in history. Though the Agojie were disbanded and their legacy nearly erased by colonial forces, their story has endured, a testament to the strength, resilience, and indomitable spirit of the women of Dahomey. Today, the legacy of the Agojie lives on in the cultural memory of the people of Benin. They are celebrated as symbols of courage and resistance, their stories serving as an inspiration to generations. Through oral traditions, historical research, and modern portrayals, the Agojie continue to captivate and inspire, reminding us of a time when women warriors stood at the forefront of history. But the story of the Agojie doesn't end with the fall of Dahomey. Their legacy has transcended time and geography, influencing cultures far beyond West Africa. The story of the Agojie has inspired countless retellings in modern times. From Hollywood blockbusters to historical novels, the image of the fierce warrior women of Dahomey has captured the imagination of people around the world. But beyond these portrayals lies a deeper legacy, one that speaks to the enduring power of their story and the cultural significance they hold today. In recent years, the Agojie have gained widespread recognition through popular media. Films like The Woman King have brought their story to a global audience, highlighting the bravery and leadership of these women warriors. While these portrayals often take creative liberties, they serve an important role in reviving interest in the Agojie and educating audiences about their historical significance. Behind these portrayals are filmmakers, historians, and cultural experts dedicated to bringing the true story of the Agojie to life. Their work not only entertains but also informs, ensuring that the legacy of these warriors is preserved for future generations. However, it is important to approach these representations with a critical eye, recognizing both their value and their limitations. Beyond the silver screen, historians and researchers continue to uncover the rich history of the Agojie. Through the study of oral traditions, colonial records, and archaeological findings, scholars have pieced together a more nuanced understanding of the Agojie's role in Dahomey's history. This research is crucial in separating myth from fact, ensuring that the true story of the Agojie is preserved for posterity. The work of these historians has not only deepened our understanding of the Agojie but also highlighted their significance within the broader context of African and world history. As one of the few all-female military units in recorded history, the Agojie challenged conventional narratives about women's roles in warfare and society, offering a powerful example of female agency and leadership. In Benin, the legacy of the Agojie is celebrated through cultural festivals and ceremonies that honor their memory. These events are more than just reenactments. They are a vital part of keeping the history and spirit of the Agojie alive. Participants, often descendants of the Dahomeyan people, don the traditional attire of the Agojie and perform their rituals, songs, and dances, passing down the stories of these warriors to younger generations. For the people of Benin, the Agojie are not just figures from the past. They are symbols of resilience, bravery, and cultural pride. These celebrations serve as a reminder of the strength and independence of Dahomey and the role the Agojie played in defending their homeland. The festivals also act as an educational tool, teaching young people about their heritage and the importance of preserving it. Across Benin, monuments and memorials have been erected to honor the Agojie, ensuring that their contributions are not forgotten. These monuments stand as a testament to the enduring impact of the Agojie, not only on Dahomey's history but on the collective memory of the people of Benin. Through these tangible symbols, the Agojie continue to inspire and empower, serving as a powerful reminder of what it means to fight for one's people and culture. The story of the Agojie is one of strength, courage, and resilience. From their rise as the fierce protectors of Dahomey to their eventual decline in the face of colonial forces, the Agojie have left an indelible mark on history. Their legacy transcends time and place, continuing to inspire people around the world. Whether through film, research, or cultural celebration, the memory of the Agojie lives on, reminding us all of the power of unity, determination, and the indomitable spirit of those who fight for what they believe in. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of the Agojie. Their story is a powerful reminder of the strength and resilience of women in history, a legacy that will continue to inspire for generations to come.